What's going on, everybody? My name is Mark. This is Spencer. Welcome to the Spark Pass Xbox Game Showcase recap show. Spencer, Jesus. What a broadcast.
Dude, they showed so many games. And I want to play them. I want to play them real bad.
That first hour felt like a boom, here's a game. Boom, here's a thing. Boom, here's a thing. Boom, here's... Like, you are getting punched in the face with content.
Well, that's the thing is, like, even partway through the show, they showed kind of like a quick reminder, like, hey, we have the Starfield Direct at the end of the show. And when they showed it, we were like, oh, God, is this where they're going to start talking about Starfield? And we were like, how long has this show been going on? Like, we saw so much stuff at one time that it felt like it was a whole show's worth of content already.
Genuinely thought they hit that Starfield trailer like 45 minutes in, roundabout.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought we were moving straight into Starfield Direct.
I did too.
Because they had shown so much shit.
Yeah, like it made it feel like we were way farther in. And then there was also the moment I looked at the clock and I was like, we're not that far in. Is that really all we're getting? And then we're going to get an hour and a half of Starfield. And they were like, no, by the way, we just wanted to remind you that this is going to be here. Here's a bunch more stuff.
Dude, what an absolutely insane, like, list of stuff. And I will say, off the top, so let's go ahead, let's get into this.
Mm-hmm.
Top line, where do you put the show? Top line thought. And then we'll get into a little bit of specifics. We're not gonna...
Are you wanting, like, a letter grade?
Yeah, like, we're not gonna go, like, line through everything that we saw.
Sure.
We'll just hit the highlights, but, like, top line... Letter grade, however you want to do it. How did you feel about the showcase?
I would give it an A, my friend.
Bam.
I have not been overly excited about video games in a long time. Partially just like not having time to play them, but also just like there hasn't been shit that's interested me.
Yeah.
And then this show was just like, hey, what if we did a lot of stuff that you would like?
Right.
Like, we got Hellblade, we got, what was it, like, Still in the Deep It Awakes, or whatever that fucking game was called. Like, we saw little of it, right? Here, I have the whole card in front of me. Still Wakes the Deep, that looks like a cosmic Lovecraftian horror thing. Looks awesome. 33 Immortals looks like Hades, where you fight God with your friends. Like, what? That sounds awesome.
Yeah, 33 Immortals looks sweet. Can we... By the way, I guess we'll... Unless you had more you wanted to hit there.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This show, I will go A-.
Okay.
Because I would have liked to have seen a little bit more actual gameplay of stuff.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
The only thing that we didn't... we got a lot of, like, edited gameplay in the Avowed trailer, which, by the way, fucking Avowed.
Dude, Avowed looks so good.
Oh my god. That game looks amazing.
It was so much brighter and, like, poppy than I expected it to be, right? Like, all of the colors were, like, a neon almost feel to it. And it gave me a feel of, like, Skyrim if it was brightly colored and pretty, where like when you play Skyrim or like the Elder Scrolls, it's like very dark and dingy and everything feels dirty, where this was just like color pop in your face the whole time, dude. Looked sick.
Yeah, for sure. It looked really fucking good. I think that's the game we probably saw the most like actual gameplay of, aside from obviously Starfield, right?
We saw a lot of gameplay for 33 Immortals and Payday.
That's true. There's a good amount of stuff. It wasn't as much as I wanted. I'm a big fan of like just raw, unedited, like here's just a 5-minute snippet of the game, right?
Yeah.
And it was mostly more like edited together, like here's some highlights, right?
Yeah.
Which is not inherently bad, right?
But I do kind of like it too. Like the just straight forward, like it's like someone sat down and played the game and recorded like 5 to 10 minutes straight of it.
Yeah,
as opposed to like jump cuts to different scenes and different things happening, which like both are good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can do both. I think having a mix of both is good because you do want style. This is a marketing thing at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Sickos like us just want the raw, like, show me the thing. Show me the thing that I'm going to be playing, right? But you do have to remember this is also a marketing event, right?
Right.
So, you've got to have a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. You got to have some both. But, like, overall, in terms of the content they showed, some of which I expected, some of which I very much didn't, I was very happy with that show, by and large.
I thought it was awesome.
There was a lot of really cool shit. Fable was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, what the heck's going on with that?
Like, the brother from the IT crowd?
Yeah.
Who's a giant?
Or is he normal size and like the game is tiny sized, right? Like,
no clue. No idea. Like, so obviously to me, that game very much feels like they didn't show us any gameplay of that one. That one was just like a full-fledged like tone setter trailer, right? We didn't really see a ton of like actual like what we're going to be doing. This is what they opened the show with too, by the way, which like, wow, holy shit, they're opening the show with Fable, which is wild. Yeah. That was very much like, to me it feels like Fable is sort of like, we're keeping the name, we're keeping the tone, which, Fable always had this sort of like kind of funny tone, sort of a humorous tone. Otherwise, I'm expecting something completely fucking different. This is like a new franchise with Fable on the name, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah. Which, like, depending on your level of preference for, like, when you reboot a franchise or whatever, like, Fable's been out of the public consciousness for, like, over a decade, right? I don't think it's necessarily bad to have a new take.
Yeah, Fable 3 was, like, 2011.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, having like a new take on it, I don't think is. I'm excited to see what they do with it, right? I did very much come away from that going like, we didn't get a date, we don't know when it's coming, but like later in the show, knowing that like we're getting Starfield in 2023, they said Avowed is coming in 2024. Knowing that basically the way this is lining up in Exile's new game, which looks incredible, by the way.
Yeah, that game looks awesome.
That game looks rad. We're basically lining up for a big new RPG every year from now in 2023 until the next console generation. Like, that's kind of the way it's lining up. Microsoft in this show established what it is going to be in this console generation, right? Xbox used to be the home of the first-person shooter. Xbox is now establishing itself as the home of the Western RPG. That is what they have done in this show. They have shown you, hey, this year you're going to get to play Starfield. Year after that, you're going to get to play Avowed. Probably 2025-ish, somewhere in that realm. Fable. Right? And they did that job beautifully, I believe. They did a perfect job of putting that sort of premise together of like, whereas Sony has gone the more cinematic third-person action game route, Microsoft is going the largely, but not necessarily always, first-person, massive RPG route. That is their differentiator, right? And honestly, like, as far as a mission statement of what we are going to be in this console generation, fucking great.
Yeah.
I'm down. I'm down with the vision. I'm into it.
Yeah, I think it's a solid place to start moving into, right? It kind of feels like their own world where like we said, like Sony is very focused on like third-party action titles and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
Both of those are fun.
Both of those are great. Both of those have a place, right? Let's get into some of the other stuff that they showed here. Can I just say, they didn't show Indiana Jones alongside it. But them showing Ubisoft Star Wars made me feel like a fucking genius. I was immediately just like, oh god, did I summon that from the ether? I swear I didn't.
Was it me? Did I do this?
Did I do it? Like, did they watch the show and go, all right, call up Ubisoft?
All right,
Fuck.
put it in there. Jesus, dude. This guy's so excited about it.
And I am so excited that it's an Outer Rim like scoundrel game. Rather, like, so many Star Wars games focus on either the ship combat, which is rad, or Jedi.
Yeah.
This is a new thing. There's very few Star Wars games that focus on the, like, Outer Rim scoundrels, like the seedy underbelly of the Galactic Empire, right?
Right.
There's so few, and to me, that's a big part of the iconography of Star Wars, and there's so few games that explore that space.
Mm-hmm.
It is, if you're gonna do a Star Wars game, that is the place to do it. It looked sweet.
Yeah, like, listen, if you're not going to give me a new pod racing game, give me this, right?
Spencer, I have a new thing on the goals list.
You want another pod racing game?
I literally played Star Wars Episode 1 Racer like 2 weeks ago.
Did you really? Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That game is so sick.
I loved that game as a kid, dude. I played the hell out of that on my N64.
Me too.
But see, like, I'm not as big of a Star Wars fan as you are. I'm not saying Star Wars is bad. So don't come for me, internet. But Mark is very much like a Star Wars fan, and I'm like, yeah, Star Wars is cool, right? This is probably the most interested I've been in a Star Wars game since, like, Battlefront 2.
Right.
Like, I was not super jazzed on Jedi Survivor. I don't think it's a bad game, just wasn't really my speed, you know? So seeing just stuff, like, outside of what we already know about this world and that we've already seen a million times over is way more fun than just, you get to go be a Jedi again. Okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah, like, it's a new approach, which I am very much in favor of. And we're going to get to see more of it tomorrow at Ubisoft Forward.
That's the other thing that's really cool is we're going to immediately turn around and see more of it. And it makes sense that Ubisoft was like, look, dude, we'll let you be the announcer, but we're showing the gameplay. Right,
yeah. There's definitely... And that's something that's, like, been done in old E3s ad infinitum, right?
Oh, like, that's happened for decades. This isn't new.
Right. But the game looks very cool. Obviously, this year I have just been, like, fiending for sci-fi stuff, and seeing that get announced alongside the big stuff for Starfield, which we'll get into in a second, it made me so happy. I was so excited. Speaking of stuff that we know is coming, that we know we're going to get to see more of tomorrow, we did get a trailer for Forza Motorsport here. We got a date, October 10th.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great news. I mean, I really feel like that's all this Forza presentation needed to be. Right?
Yeah, there's really not much else we need from it, right? Like, we kind of know what a Forza game is. We just need to know when I'm going to get it.
Yeah, they basically did a trailer that was, like, focusing on the idea of, like, you're building a car up through this racing league, and that's sort of, like, the story mode, which they said they're going in depth on tomorrow, right? So that trailer did absolutely everything it needed to do. The game looks preposterous. Like, how can a video game look that real?
Mm-hmm.
Game looks really good.
Blows me away.
Dude, it's crazy. Like, I don't know how they continue to make Forza look as good as it looks.
Yeah.
And we know when we're gonna get to play it, right? So at the end of the day, like, that's all that really needed to do. I feel like yo, here's the thing. It's got some single player content. You can play it in October. That's all I needed. Great.
Yep. Yeah.
It did everything it needed to do. Can we talk about how Atlas infiltrated the fuck out of the show?
They did, didn't they? I did not expect to see 3 new Atlas games.
Yeah, one's a remake,
but still, I was not expecting them to be there 3 times.
Yeah, no, bigger. If anything, I would expect if you're going to do 3 Atlas things, you put them all together.
Yeah, that was the other interesting thing, is that they were kind of spaced out.
Yeah, like Capcom, or not Capcom, it's like, we go like 15, 20 minutes, and it's like, oh, hey, here's a new Atlas thing. Cool, we're doing a Persona 3 remake. That's cool. Persona 3 is like a not easy to acquire game, and 4 is kind of where the franchise took off into the mainstream, right? So, like, go back to the old thing. Great. And then, oh, hey, by the way, another 20 minutes later, oh, hey, here's another Atlas thing. It's a Persona 5 tactics game, which, like, what? That's crazy. Like, I mean, it makes sense. Like, other RPG franchises have done that. And then, oh, hey, we're getting late into the game, late into the show. Great. Okay, here's another Atlas thing. Fantasy Persona.
Yeah.
Here's just a new Atlas franchise in the Xbox show, by the way. Like, I want to oversell that a little bit. I want to put emphasis on that. The debut of a new Atlas thing in an Xbox show.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about commitment to Japanese game development, plus the premiere of Capcom's new thing, you want to talk about commitment to Japanese develop and game design, that's it. Yeah. That's it right there. They have partnered with Atlas and with Capcom.
Yeah, which, like,
on premiering these.
And, like, I feel like some people are going to be like, okay, whatever. They made another partnership. But for looking at the past of video games, like, especially thinking, like, when, like, I feel like Xbox 360 and PS3 era is kind of when, like, each console kind of, like, started to forge their path, right? Of this is what we kind of focus on. JRPGs just, like, did not hit the Xbox world at all. And then, you know, they kind of started trickling them into Game Pass, and then Persona 5 hit, and it was like, oh, that's a big one. That's a big JRPG. And then now we're at the point where they're partnering up and showing their games first at the Xbox showcase, not at the Sony show. And it's just like, okay, this is not what I was expecting when I bought my, like, when I had a 360 back in the day, and it was like home of the shooter and only the shooter, right? So like, it's a huge deal.
You remember back to the 360 era where, like, they tried to make their own JRPG franchises. You remember, like, Blue Dragon and games like that just, like, did not take off.
Exactly.
As like, long-term franchises. There's people that love those games, right?
Sure, but they didn't become something, right? Like, they were like, all good game. And then it was the end of it. Yeah, exactly. Going from that to now where we are of Atlas just debuted 3 new games at an Xbox show? That's wild. That was not on my bingo card at all. And I think it's starting to, not completely, it is starting to erase the narrative of, like, you can't put Japanese stuff on Xbox. Yeah. Right? Like, Japan's not going to go for it. Yeah. It starts to erase that narrative. Now, obviously, you know, the Xbox brand has a lot of work to do in that country still, and it probably always will. They're always going to be operating from a position of third place. Sure. Right? And I'm sure most of those games are also coming to PlayStation, let's be real. Right. But, like, putting themselves on the forefront of that is that's great. That's what we want to see, right? And all of those were coming to Game Pass. Yes. So, like, you know, we always talk about it. If this is a game you don't think you like, it's a good way to try it. Or if you're someone who's like, you know, I love all of these JRPG games. I don't have $70 to spend on every one of these games. You know, you got them all in one place, dude. Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was a really strong point of the show. Spencer, you want to talk about Hellblade 2? I can just let you go for a minute. Of course I want to talk about Hellblade 2. What are you fucking talking about, Mark? I'll honestly, like, I'll just say it looked fucking sick. It was like a story trailer, mostly. Yeah. Spencer, hit it. Biggest bummer for me is that it's not coming out tomorrow. Like, give me this fucking video game right now. Yes. I want it so bad. I liked this trailer significantly more than the last trailer we saw. The last trailer we saw almost, like, felt like it was more action-packed, right? Yeah. And it felt like this was going to be more of an action-y game, which was not the case with Hellblade, the original one, right? It was more, you deal a lot with, like, parrying and then taking advantage on your fight, rather than just, like, run in and slash. And I liked that this one had no combat focus, and it focused almost exclusively on one of the biggest parts of the first game, which is the psychosis that Senua deals with. She hears different voices constantly. And something that they do a really, really good job of with this game, if you play or watch it with headphones on, is they're coming from everywhere. Right?
Yep.
Like sometimes it sounds like it's behind you on the left. Sometimes it's in front of you on the right. And they do a fantastic job of putting that together. And they really focused on that and brought it back, and almost even started to put into effect of like she might be seeing things now too. We didn't really know, like, is this room actually moving? And then it shatters into glass and pulls her underwater, and all this like wild stuff is happening around her, and it's like, okay, I don't know what really happened. Like what was real and what wasn't. And I think that's one of the places that this game really shines. Is it's how well and correctly they portray that kind of stuff, because they put a lot of work into that with professionals. So I'm super excited. I'm ready for that game. I was ready for that game the moment that it was announced back in a few years ago. I have been ready since then, and will be ready for it the day it fucking comes out.
And they didn't give us a date, but they did give us
just 2024, yeah.
Just 2024 on that one. But that's way better than eventually.
Yeah, that's way better than, well, I guess we're making it, you know.
They said at the very beginning, they had the actress who plays Senua at the front of this trailer before they started it. And she said they had finished all the motion capture of the game.
Yep.
So like, and they do their cutscenes in a really cool way where it's like fully mocap, like really focused on the face. It's really cool shit.
Yeah.
They said that they're done with that part of the game, which is a big part of the game, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of it.
So they are getting to a place where they're getting close, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a mid 2024. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a fall 2024. I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Yeah.
Right. But we know it's coming, and it's gonna be a big for those folks that like want the action adventure game stuff on the Xbox platform. This is gonna be like the front runner of that. It's again super stoked. Dude, there's so much shit in this fucking... I don't want to go through this, like, line by line.
Yeah.
Like,
but, like, there's just so much to talk about.
Dude, there's so much to talk about. Avowed.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Avowed until my eyes bleed.
Yeah. I'm super into that, dude.
That game looked incredible.
Yeah.
Like, everything they showed of that, I was, like, kind of... Like, when they initially showed Avowed, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Obsidian's doing their take on the Elder Scrolls. Cool. Okay. Like, I'm not, like, losing my mind about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The initial trailer they showed looked neat, cool tone piece. It's in the Pillars of Eternity universe. Cool.
Yeah, the initial trailer, too, looked vastly different than what we saw today.
What we saw today was the most colorful, imaginative, evocative, first-person, one of these style of RPGs that I have seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, visually, it feels very fresh.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of wild shit going on in that trailer. I feel like I'm gonna have to go watch that trailer 20 times to feel like I, like, fully grasp what was going on.
Yeah.
Right? But that game looks capital I incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait to see more of that. They did also put 2024 on that one.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier. I feel like that's going to be the big 2024 game, right? It's going to be like the 1-2 punch. It feels like it,
yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be like the 1-2 punch of Hellblade 2 and Avowed, right? Those are going to be the two big games that... it always feels like they kind of focus on two big ones, right?
Yeah.
Like, you look at 2021, you have Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite, and then squeezed in the middle there is Psychonauts.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of feels like 2024 is 2023. You look at this year, it's Starfield, Forza Motorsport, right?
Yeah, exactly.
2024, it feels like, okay, the fall is going to be Avowed and Hellblade.
Yep.
Right? Which, like, more years like that sound good.
Yeah, and, like, even on top of that, like, you know, there's also going to be Flight Simulator 2024. which was like a vastly different thing of Flight Simulator, which I think is awesome. It wasn't just like fly a plane. You're doing actual like aviation jobs, like doing like water rescues in a helicopter, putting out fires in a plane, and all kinds of stuff, which I think is a really cool take on that.
It's a really cool idea.
I still imagine it's not going to super be my jam, but I think it's very neat and interesting to kind of like highlight and showcase those things that like there is more to flight than just like get on a plane, go to the place, land in the place.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Than doing just like commercial flight, which like that's the origin of Flight Simulator, but taking that idea and expanding upon it, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I really dig where their head's at with Flight Sim 2024. Like Flight Sim, again, we tried it on the show, not our jam. I don't think it's going to be something I get into, but it's a huge game for Microsoft.
Oh yeah.
And the focus on it here was like concise and to the point and really cool. Really dug it a lot. By the way, we're going through all of this. I think we've already been talking for like 20 minutes. We haven't even spoken a word about Starfield.
Okay, I have a plan. I have an idea. How about we both go and say what our biggest surprise was, and then we can move into a little bit about Starfield.
Sure.
So that way we don't go on forever, right?
Yeah. We're trying not to go on forever here, gang.
Yeah. So what was your like biggest? Was not expecting that. Like, holy crap! What is this?
Clockwork Revolution.
Yeah, that was
Easily.
mine. That was 100% mine too.
Same.
That and close second for me, like Still Wakes the Deep, but I got so little on that, right? But yeah, dude, Clockwork Revolution was just like out of nowhere. Hey, this is gonna be big and cool.
Yeah. So this is In Exile. This is their new project, In Exile. Of course, the makers of Wasteland.
Yeah.
Who very much have a history in the Fallout series. This is them doing a steampunk first-person shooter, maybe RPG mechanics-y thing. We got a big, long story trailer, is basically what we got here. Like a reveal of, like, this is the concept, this is the world, with a little bit of what looked like gameplay sort of smattered in, right?
Yeah.
I have a feeling this one is also going to be like 2025, 2026. We're probably not going to see this one for a while, I get the vibe.
Oh, I thought it said... Oh, yeah, it said coming in due time. That's right. That was the ending.
They didn't put a date on that one. But again, In Exile, a big Western RPG developer putting together a first-of-their-kind, like, first-person, largely shooting RPG game. This is Xbox's wheelhouse now, right? Like, this is going to be another one on that big, long list of, like, here's Microsoft's brand identity. This is what we're doing.
Yep.
I think that game looks wild. I think it looks really cool. I think it's going to be a long time until we get to play it. But conceptually, from an ideas perspective, bro, I'm so in.
Yeah, 100%.
You had to show me cool robot, and that's all I need. I'm good. I'll play it.
it kind of gave me like very lightly gave me like BioShock Infinite vibes at first, you know. And I was like, yo, I dig that. That's a cool world. And then it like just expands even more, and then talks about how you can like control time and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this looks dope. This looks awesome.
Great.
Give me this. Let me play this.
Yeah. I am very excited for that one. That was definitely my surprise of show. That and being right on the Ubisoft thing were kind of like my two of like, oh wow, let's fucking go, right?
Yeah.
Those were probably the two things. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming the game you're most excited about is Hellblade.
Yeah.
Coming out of the show, I kind of feel like the stuff I'm most excited about is Avowed.
Avowed's up there for me, dude. That looked awesome.
It looked great. Avowed, Clockwork Revolution, Starfield. God, there's so much good shit. And obviously I'm super excited about the Star Wars thing. I'm excited about Forza. There's Compulsion showed their new thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's a few in here that I'm excited to learn more about.
Yeah,
right?
That one's on that list for
they're
me.
At a starting point of, this looks pretty cool, but what is it? Let me see
Right.
more before I make like a final decision of how excited I am. Right?
Big agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah, like South of Midnight that they showed. That game looks like the art is just like, what the fuck is this? What is happening in this game? This looks
Right.
so cool. I want you to tell me everything about it. Like,
Yeah, the like stop motion claymation kind of thing they were doing was
yeah,
really cool. It
yeah.
looks really neat. But it was a CG trailer, right?
Mhm.
So like there's not a whole lot of meat on those bones yet. So we'll see what the actual gameplay looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, there's so much shit. And again, all of that is before Starfield, which like the Starfield Direct felt very much like what I expected in the best way possible. Right? Like, there was nothing in there that was like, oh, wow, I can't believe Starfield's doing this, because we kind of already knew most of the stuff, right? It was just more so going in depth and explaining, like, how all of that is going to work, right?
Yeah.
Like, once you actually have the game in your hand, how is it all going to work? And here's showing you some actual gameplay snippets, right?
Right.
Which they did very precious little of the first time they showed this game, right?
Yeah, and the last time we saw the gameplay, it looked significantly worse than it did today.
Big
So
agree.
I'm very glad they showed it today. And like honestly, maybe they just shouldn't have showed it last time at all. Because
Yeah.
everybody kind of came out of that going, "Oh, that looks rough."
Yeah, there was definitely some noticeable performance stuff whenever they showed it last year, and that game looks so much better this year. I am so glad they delayed that game for a year to polish it up.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad that we didn't get a just put it out and we'll fix it later mess.
Yeah. Which, like, Microsoft is not immune to, obviously, we've seen.
Yeah.
But I'm super glad they did that. I think they know that, like, this is the one, especially for this year at least, right?
Yeah.
And that was a very confident, upbeat, positive, like, we know what we're showing here is good, and we're going to go as in-depth as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Right? That was a very confident showing of that game. Whereas the one from the year before was a little like, oh, okay, yeah, here's some stuff going on. It looks cool. The ideas are there. But, like, this was a very confident, we have a game. It is basically finished. They're polishing it up. They're finishing it up, right?
Yeah.
It was a very confident showing of that game.
Yep.
And, I mean, obviously it looks insane. Preposterous.
Looks awesome.
Like, it looks fucking great.
It looks
like,
huge.
I am excited to hear you say it looked awesome because you were very low on the first reveal last year.
I'm still not like I'm not excited about this game compared to most people. But what they're doing is very cool, right?
Yeah.
Like it is very impressive what they're doing visually and like overall with the game. It is technologically impressive. I'm still not super interested in like upgrading a ship. I'm not super interested in flying to 4 million planets. I have no interest in anything with the word resources in it, which is fine. That not everything is for me. That's okay.
Right.
But I think it does look vastly more interesting than it did the first time I saw it. Right.
I think what I took away from that, I was watching it as I was watching, because I'm already like fucking stoked about this game, right? Like I didn't need to know anything else.
Yeah.
Right. I was locked in. I was ready to go. Most of what they talked about was stuff that like we already knew about from the trailer last year anyway, right?
Yeah, a lot of it was.
Yeah, it was just more in depth on those things, right? I was watching that mostly from the perspective of like, okay, someone who is like you, who doesn't have any interest in the, you know, the like world building kind of like exploring around and dealing with resources and all that sort of jazz. Can you still have fun with the game?
Right. And it seems like maybe.
Yeah, my overall vibe was like, yeah, probably, but we'll see once it actually gets in our hands.
Exactly.
Right?
That's kind of how I'm feeling.
I feel like you're definitely still going to have to deal with, I feel like the ship stuff is going to be like required viewing, right? Like how you deal with ships feels like a very big requirement. Whereas it definitely felt like the base building, which was my biggest complaint with, my biggest complaint with Fallout 4 was the story.
Yeah.
But my second biggest complaint was the base building felt required and annoying in a way I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
This it felt like they learned the lesson from that. They talked about the base building a lot, and they mostly sort of talked about it in terms of like, this is just a passive thing you can do. You plop this here, you can build it up as much as you want aesthetically, and then it just sort of passively gains you resources.
Yeah.
Right? So like, if you don't want to actively scrounge around for resources, this is a thing you can build to do it passively. It didn't sound required.
Yeah. But even then,
Right.
like, the idea of passively getting resources sounds great. But then I gotta fucking build the thing to do it. And I'm like, I don't want to do that either.
Yeah. So,
And, like...
I am hopeful that there's enough of that stuff that you can just focus. That game is so fucking massive.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can just focus on the bits that you want to do and sort of fulfill the fantasy you want to get out of it and just enjoy the plot and then go. Or if you want to be these immersive guys that have been fucking playing Skyrim for 15 fucking years.
Yeah.
And still finding new ways to play it. I'm really hopeful that Starfield, especially after seeing that trailer, I very much feel, or that whole presentation, I very much feel like Starfield is going to have a lot of that sauce.
I think so too, and I hope that it does. Because, I mean, they were very much like, we want this to be an experience that you want and you want to create. And if that is the path that we go down of like, hey, you know, you could have made this ship even cooler, but it works fine. That's all I want, you know? And like, if it's stuff that you get just kind of as you go through the game, it's not as bad, right? Like, if it's very naturally that you just walk through places and pick up the resources you need, it's cool. But as soon as they're like, okay, well, you don't have enough resources for this. You have to go find the planet to find them and then get the resources. And I'm like, I do not have time for that. Like, I don't want to do that. That's not fun. Like, that's very grindy and uninteresting.
We're extremely excited about the premise of that.
Yeah, and
I just want to like get a ship, build a ship that is attuned exactly how I want it, and then go on alien planets and just fucking look around.
Yeah.
Like, I want to get into space fights. I want to build a cool ship. I want to go on these planets and just look around. A lot of, whenever this game was initially revealed, people made a lot of, and it felt like kind of derisive comparisons to No Man's Sky.
Mm-hmm. Which there are definitely
like,
some I can see.
There's definitely some stuff there. Like, it's not a baseless comparison, right?
Yeah.
I immediately feel like this is like, in terms of what they're going for, of like immersing you in this experience of you can do whatever you want, and, you know, having a story as a baseline there, completely different vibe to what No Man's Sky was, which is just sort of like this survival sandbox, right? Completely different thing.
If I had to compare it to things, it gives me kind of like a vibe of if they took No Man's Sky and the Outer Worlds, and just smooshed them into a game.
Yeah,
which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, and that's great. I want to play that video game.
Yeah,
right. Like, I absolutely want to play that video game, especially in the mindset I've been in this year of like. And I guess it was just like, man, I really wish I was playing Starfield right now, because I've been trying to place for months like, I want to play a very cool space game, and I've enjoyed Everspace 2 and played that for a while. I've gone back and played a bunch of old Star Wars shit this year. Just trying to figure out what's the thing that I want. And I watched that presentation and I went, that's the thing that I want.
That's what I've been looking for.
That's what I've been looking for. I want to play Starfield. I cannot wait to play Starfield. The game looks great. Again, nothing in that presentation was like a surprise. It wasn't like, oh, wow, here's this crazy new thing about Starfield we didn't already know about, right? Mm-hmm. But it was a very confident presentation of that game. And it looks fucking great. And we're going to get to play it in like 3 months.
Yeah, I feel like what they showed was, like we said, it's not really anything we didn't know about for the most part. Like, they gave us some more like in-depth details on things of like the factions and that kind of stuff. But they were like, hey, this is all the stuff we said we were going to do. And we're going to show you how we're doing it. And it's like, okay, those things look like they work from what I can tell. Like, there's not a lot of promises that they have that they didn't at least show us, right?
Right.
Which that doesn't mean that they're going to deliver perfectly on it. Who knows?
Right,
Maybe the game's not fun. We don't know. But this wasn't a game of like, we have big expectations, and as a studio they're making big aspirations, and we're just like, okay, you don't see any of it until the game comes out, and then the game comes out and it's like, you didn't deliver on a single fucking thing. And it's like, we've already seen, it's like, from what we can tell, you're delivering on the things that you said, which is a very big improvement for Bethesda games.
Yeah, for sure. Like, they showed a big variety of the stuff they said they wanted us to be doing. They showed a lot of that stuff today.
Yeah.
They showed a lot of the combat. They showed a lot of the revamped sort of communication systems and the dialogue system. They showed a lot of the crafting stuff and the base building stuff and all that sort of jazz. They showed a lot of everything. Basically, all the bylines of, like, this is what we expected the game to be. Mm-hmm. They showed all of them. And they look like they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
Bet. That was a very confident presentation of that game.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. Here's the thing, Spence. The fun's not over. Everything's done for today. Sunday show is over. We loved it, by and large. I think this is sort of like conclusion here. That show ruled.
Yeah.
It was very, very good, I feel like.
And you know what else I liked about it? There wasn't 25 minutes of people just talking about stuff. They just showed me games on games on games.
They had one Sarah Bond segment to intro us to the show. They had one Phil Spencer segment to end the show.
Yep.
And obviously the Starfield Direct was more talky, but like that was more like a deep dive.
That's fine. We know about Starfield. I didn't need them to. They didn't have to show any of that, really. You know what I mean? Like, we know it's coming out. So I'm cool with like that having a focus of, you know, this is like literally our biggest game that's launched since the series consoles came out, arguably. This is our biggest game of the year. We're gonna obviously focus a lot on it, and that's great. But during the rest of the show, when there's just game announcements coming out, we didn't have we didn't have 5-10 minutes between announcements where somebody came out and was like, we're trying to make the most ambitious game our studio's ever made in the history of ambitious games. We're using new technology on this next gen console. It was just like, yo, this game's coming out, looks sick. Hey, you want to see another one? Great, here you go. Like, I like that so much more than just like kind of just nothingness, like dialogue and speeches from people, right? Like, we get it. You want this game to be good. Obviously, you're not going to walk on stage like, I don't give a fuck if I make this game or not. You know, like, they're all very canned, and I don't care about it. Just show me the games forever.
Right. Yeah, for sure. They definitely. I felt like the pacing of the show was very good. It was like bang, bang, thing, and then a little bit of a break. Here's Sarah Bond. Hey, what's up, Sarah? Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the pace was definitely like, I think you and I both said several times during the show of like, oh god, it doesn't stop. It's
there's another game? Oh shit, okay, here we go.
Yeah, like, it was very much like this is a thrill ride for like an hour and 15 minutes, and then the rest was the Starfield deep dive, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Spence. We, by and large, thought that show fucked. We're not done. Forza Monthly's tomorrow.
Yep.
And then Tuesday, this was just published in Microsoft's like recap of like, hey, here's everything we showed, right? Join us on Tuesday, June 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for Xbox Showcase Extended, which will offer deeper dives in what you saw from Avowed, Towerborn, Hellblade 2, Elder Scrolls Online Necrom, and the Dune Simulator of Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah, all you had to do is say Hellblade, and I was like, yep, I'm watching that. Sold.
So, we're not even done yet. Here comes the deep dive part, which I feel like is going to answer some of the questions that may still linger over a good amount of this stuff. The fact that they're showing Avowed and Hellblade there is like, let's go.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see more Avowed.
Yeah, I'm super
pumped
to see that.
The same way that you have been talking about, like, you're like jonesing for space and sci-fi stuff, I'm like jonesing for fantasy stuff, right? So we got Fable, we got Avowed, like, boom, boom, we got big stuff there. Yeah, for sure. They're showing something new from Necrom. I think it's like the next part of the expansion. They show the trailer of it, of like a little like
story thing that's new in there.
Yeah, it's like the next little bit of it.
Right, yeah. So yeah, that's what they're showing on Tuesday. So we're not even done yet, and obviously, Ubisoft's presentation is on Monday. Capcom's presentation on which we saw a new Capcom game in this show too. We didn't even talk about the new Capcom thing.
There's just too much, dude. There's too much to talk about.
There's so much shit. If you have already watched the show, let us know what you think in the comments. If you haven't watched the show yet, I implore you go watch it.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a very good show. A lot of stuff there that was very exciting. Again, Spencer, you gave it an A. I gave it an A-.
Yep. This is the show that you watch your friends, you make your friends watch, who keep going, Xbox doesn't have any games. There's no games on the Xbox. Well, here you go, bud. There's a lot more that got shown here.
There's a lot. They showed 25 video games, including a 45-minute breakdown on what looks like the biggest RPG of the console generation.
Yep, and I think like 21 of those things are Game Pass.
Yeah.
And the things that aren't were already things that aren't Game Pass. Cyberpunk.
Right.
Overwatch. And even that was like, you get a Game Pass Ultimate perk for it. So, like, there's a lot here, dude.
Yeah. There was a lot going on in this show. It was a great presentation for Microsoft. Hopefully they, like we said coming into the show, there was an opportunity here for PlayStation Showcase was pretty mediocre. Summer Games Fest was good but not great.
Yeah.
This was great.
Yeah.
And hopefully it leads to a shift in momentum and a shift in the tide for Xbox to like come back up into the conversation where they've sort of like slipped out of that conversation in 2022.
Yeah.
And frankly, they just showed a lot of kick-ass games that I can't wait to play.
Yeah, same. Like I was saying earlier, this is the first time in like the entire year that I've looked at multiple video games and went, yeah, I want to play all those. Those all look awesome. Like,
yeah,
I can count on one hand the amount of games coming out this year that I've been excited about up until now. And those were like 2 games.
Right, and here's the thing. 2023 has been like, objectively, if you look at it from like the wide-angle lens, it's like there's a lot of really cool shit coming down the pipe this year.
Yeah.
Just a lot of it hasn't been like targeted on your interests.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the thing. It's just like, there's a lot of games. And well, the other thing too is how many of these games that they showed today are coming out in fucking September? Like, September has every video game in it.
Dude, there's so many games in September.
It was just like
a lot.
Make your year of gaming in this month.
Right, exactly. There's so much shit coming out in September, dude.
Still can't believe an awesome year. All of you fools putting your game in September against party animals. What's wrong with you? Cannot compete.
We were doing a bit for the whole stream of like, party animals. It's the game of the year contender, and all of you morons are positioning yourself against party animals.
What an idiot.
What a maroon. How dare you? Which they showed that game at the Summer Games Fest, and I'm super fucking excited about Party Animals. That's also coming to Game Pass.
Yes, dude.
Man, there's way too much to play on Game Pass, but we're gonna do our level best to continue to play Game Pass games, let you guys know what we think of them, and we're gonna be doing a lot of that next week. Spencer, we're finally doing it after a month of playing the video game. Next week on Spark Pass, we're finally talking Redfall. Yep. And I feel like it is going to be a very interesting conversation.
I think so. Should be fun, though.
We should be fun. So come hang out with us next week. The Xbox Showcase was rad. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It was a very, very good show. Got me excited, got me pumped about the world of Xbox going forward. So let's take a step back and go to this thing that didn't really work out.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll give it that.
We'll give it one more last mention before we send it out to the pasture.
Yeah, this episode that we're putting out next week will be the scene where we walk behind the barn slowly, and Redfall's looking out into the sun, and it's beautiful, and then I pull out the shotgun.
Yep. We're gonna old yeller it.
We're gonna old yeller this old era of Xbox of negativity and bullshit.
Yep.
We're gonna usher in a new era one after that. So that's what we're doing next week. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us on our showcase recap show. I'm super excited about where the world of Xbox is headed, and I know Spencer is too. So thank you guys so much for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.